Welcome to the 12th edition of the Outdated Wrestling Hour. I've been asked to talk about outrageous things I've seen in wrestling, but I didn't care about the villains. I like the good guys. All the good guys, like Vern Gagne, what a scientist. Rene Goulet, Frank Gotch, Carl Gotch. All the Gotches. Dominica DiNucci, Louis Arriba Martinez, as he would pin the opponent's shoulders to the mat in clean fashion, 1, 2, 3. Counted up by referees like Dusty Feldbaumer and announced by people like Friendly Bob Freed. He was so friendly, unlike the Bob I worked for. Anyway, it's still the Outdated Wrestling Hour. Oh, baby, did we have a time putting this one together. Hey, everybody. It's Bob Smith, formerly of Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine and about 1,000 other wrestling magazines and a couple of other podcasts and what have you. And welcome once again to the Outdated Wrestling Hour. We have had a time putting this together because we had an internet outage and power outage at my usual place where we record. And we tried and waited and couldn't get things back together. But so I'm in an alternate location, and this one's going to sound a little different, at least on my wraparound announcements. So I won't babble too long here. We'll get right to the meat of the show. We're going to talk about the most outrageous things that my guest and I have ever seen in a wrestling ring, as well as some comments on WrestleMania and some other topics. Our guest today is the great Mike Leotis from Wrestler Weekly. Just a tremendous guy, a tremendous human being, and we had a lot of fun talking, as we always do. And we have some more news after the interview. So why don't we get right to it now with the great from Wrestler Weekly, which can be found all over the internet, Mr. Mike Leotis. Well, if you've been listening to this show, you know I'm the biggest fan on earth of the Wrestler Weekly guys. And they've got big stuff going on right now. And we had such a nice response to having them on before. We're having them back. It's Mike Leotis from Wrestler Weekly. How are you, Mike?
Good, Bob. Thanks for having me on. It's always great to be here with you.
I'm glad to have you at this particular time because it's post-WrestleMania, post-Raw after WrestleMania as we tape this. Actually, we'll be on Friday. We're taping this on a Thursday, so this show will be on tomorrow. So we're fresh up to date. So what you think of WrestleMania this year?
I think the 2-night format really works well for them. You get everybody on the card, and I tell you, I echo a lot of fans. I think Cody Rhodes should have won the title. I thought it was a big moment for him, but I'm also of the camp of let's see the story play out a little bit. I know a lot of the old school wrestling fan in me is like, well, let's see the chase. But there's also that part of me that says, well, Hulkamania, Hulk came in and just steamrolled the Sheik. And it didn't need the chase, and we got Hulkamania from that. So I'm a little bit, it's a bittersweet kind of feeling, but I thought it was a good show for the most part. Big Rhea Ripley fan, so was happy to see her get the win. I will say the biggest tragedy of the weekend, though, was Vince McMahon's mustache. For sure, the biggest tragedy of the weekend.
Well, depends on who you ask, I guess. But that mustache got more publicity than all the bad stuff he did recently, or all the court things and all that stuff. Yeah, but I will say this. Here's my opinion. I talked about this. I put out a bonus show on Monday about my thoughts about WrestleMania. It's the first time I've covered anything new. And I was shocked to see the numbers I got on it. It actually worked. So maybe I'll do more current things in the future. But I will say this. I'm afraid Roman Reigns is turning into Ed Farhat. Now, let me explain.
You hear a lot of
that. Ed was the Sheik, right? And he killed two territories by doing the same thing over and over and over. You can't beat the Sheik. Here's the fireball. There's the pin. Match after match, opponent after opponent. It drove the fans away in two major markets. What I'm afraid is happening here is we have seen the Usos interfere and Solo interfere and Heyman interfere for 2 years now, match after match after match after match, including WrestleMania. I don't care that Reigns won. What bothers me, he needed the outside interference once again to do it. I think it's getting stale, man. That's just my 2 cents.
I would be in agreement with you on that, and it's so funny because none of the face wrestlers seem to bring that up in the promos.
Yeah,
they seem to just put over how he's this insurmountable thing, and I really thought, when Sammy and Kevin Owens had come in, man, they got him. You know what I mean? They kicked Solo out. They really done it. I just thought, what bigger moment is there than a main event at a WrestleMania? Right. What if it happens at a SummerSlam? It's not as big. Is Cody going to be over? Can they go another year of this?
Well, but you had Michael Cole, though. If you listen to the soundtrack of the show, proclaiming Reigns belongs in the pantheon of all the greatest champions because of the length of time he's had it. I put it to you, he's the honky tonk man. Because Peggy Sue and Jimmy Hart.
Yeah.
He's got he has better backups in the Usos and Solo, but it's still outside interference, and it's every stinking match. I mean,
yeah,
I've seen it. I've been there. I mean, and when they pan to the disappointed faces in the crowd, I think they were less disappointed in the fact that Cody didn't win than, oh my gosh, I'm going to see the same stuff over and over again for the next 6 months.
And I think, it's so funny because I think, how many more times can you do this?
Yeah.
And I was talking with a couple of buddies today. Now, Roman isn't around all year, and maybe you can get a few more matches out of this, but I think Cody was ready. I think the moment was ripe. I think you could have told the story. And then Brock attacking him on Monday makes so much more sense because Brock can't challenge Roman, but he sure as heck can challenge Cody Rhodes in the stipulation, because the stipulation was that he can no longer challenge Roman Reigns for a championship match, Brock Lesnar. That was as per SummerSlam. But Cody Rhodes may be getting a main event, and what Brock Lesnar considers, that's my spot. I'm in the opener. You're in the main event. What did you ever do to get in that main event? And it makes Brock's attack that much more meaningful, that much more full of jealousy and rage. I thought that they made Cody Rhodes look like and somebody had said this, I want to say it was Jimmy Van of Fightful. They made him look like a stupid babyface 2 nights in a row.
Good point. That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to think. I was put off by Monday Night's Raw, with the attack by Lesnar. I just, Swerve City. It seems to be Swerve City, and Cody doesn't look. I mean, how many times can you remain a superstar by rolling around the ring in a daze? I just think there's trouble brewing there. I just do.
Well, and the fans wanted it badly in Montreal, and then they delayed the Sami Zayn because you figure Cody's the guy. And then neither of them are the guy. Well, who's going to be the guy then? Who's going to be the new star that you make? It surely can't be Dwayne Johnson. That makes no sense. It doesn't build. And if you're going to have a match between Roman Reigns and Dwayne Johnson shouldn't win that match. Yeah. I mean, to me, listen, I think Jey Uso is going to be popular. I think he's going to be a big single star. I don't think he's the guy, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just yet to be seen and they're playing the long game, but I just think they'll look back on this and this will be a mistake that they missed a huge moment here. And especially with Vince back involved. And again, it's no disrespect as Vince, but Vince lost his fastball creatively long ago,
right?
And
a lot of things
it's time to move on.
A lot of things were fresh lately. Rhea Ripley, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, just a shot in the arm. In an already incredible women's division, she's made things all the better. I mean, tremendous. She's just tremendous in every conceivable way. The unique look, the unique style, the power. the size, the speed, the attitude, the smirking, the everything. She's a complete original from soup to nuts, and that's rare in WWE. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, the Rey and Dominic Mysterio feud. I mean, they built so many nice stories. And listen, Triple H was not a perfect booker. Nobody is. But they had built a WrestleMania that fans were excited to watch. And night one, if WrestleMania would have ended night one, you would have left a happy fan base. It would have been totally different. Night two. And again, I think Dave Meltzer had said this, and I would dare to say he's right on this. They see any reaction as a good reaction. The fact that people are so passionately pissed that Cody is mad that Cody didn't win, people are going to tune in and watch, and that's all they really care about it is if people continue to watch. You see these people, we're going to go to SmackDown and we're going to hijack the show. Yeah, well, you already paid, $200 for your tickets, so you're not really hurting them by chanting "Fire Vince." You can chant that all day. That's music to Vince's ears. He don't care.
That's not taking hold anyway. They had their chance to do that 6 months ago and they didn't do it. So I don't think that. Hey fans, hey modern day, or excuse me, current wrestling fans. You're not the show, okay? You're not the show.
Yeah.
You want to be the
100%.
show, but you'll never be the show. All right? That's another problem with current wrestling. We're going to make chants and we're going to take over the building. No, you're not. You're just going to be loud and they'll edit you. They'll sweeten you out on the next airing. So don't get all high and mighty, okay? Save it for AEW. I hate to say it, but
but you're right. And again, the way. Just like back in the old days, right? What happened when Ed Farhat went too far? People stopped showing up. It was no longer palatable entertainment.
There's the thing. It was literally, and I just got done reading Brian R. Solomon's book, which was the
great, tremendous book,
unbelievable book, and it was the same match over in front of the same people. New opponent to carve up, and eventually here's a Sheik match. Babyface takes over in the beginning. Sheik cheats, bites, gouges, and sticks him. Sticks him with whatever shiv he had on him. Babyface makes comeback. Fireball 1, 2, 3. That's a Sheik match.
Yep.
And my description was longer than many of the matches were. Okay. so and of course everybody's bleeding. I forgot that part.
Yeah. So even the referee.
Now you see that for the first or second time, and you're kind of entranced by it. You're so horrified by it that you want to see more. That's the only thing. Only wrestling can make you feel that way. Oh, that's horrible! I can't wait to be here next week. It's only wrestling can do that. But at the same token, you see the 25th time in a row, and you've paid good money to buy your tickets. And the sad part, I think, is I don't think Farhat ever understood why he was hitting the skids. He never, he only trusted himself and his inner circle and didn't trust the boys and probably didn't trust the, other promoters. But by 89, he's riding around on a bus, with the McKinney bunch and stuff like that. So, I hope he learned his lesson. You know what, though? In his prime, there was nobody like him. He was probably one of the 3 biggest stars in wrestling at his height, but you can't repeat. So that's what I'm worried about now. I would hope to think Triple H's of the world are smarter than falling into the trap.
Yeah, and I think on his own, left to his own devices, Triple H can be, but and again, like it's hard to say. Like I don't know what the long game is here, so I can't make a full judgment yet. But yeah, if Andre the Giant can't come in and beat the Sheik, who can?
But here's the thing about Roman Reigns, though. I mean, they pushed Bray Wyatt. I can't say his name. I must dislike him to such an extent that I can't say his name. They pushed Bray Wyatt. He sells a ton of merchandise from his return. Okay, that means something. All right. Maybe Roman Reigns is selling enough tickets and merchandise that they don't want to stop with him. End of story, period, on the sentence.
It's possible.
It could be.
It's absolutely possible. Yeah, and again, if that's the case, then you can't blame them. And maybe, because like I said, Monday, fans were still rabid for Cody, and so maybe this endears the people more to Cody, and it does build, so in the moment, to me, it feels like, oh, they should have done it. But again, maybe we just have to let it play out and see what happens. And I know that's not the answer that everybody wants, like the quick fix right now, today's fans, right? Oh, well, fix it, fire Vince and let Triple H do it. But, but this decision was apparently made weeks ago, so who knows who was behind that decision. So regardless, we are where we are. We're going to watch the show and see what happens. And it'll either be good or it'll be bad. But, either continue to watch it because it's good, or if it doesn't, then you have alternatives, or you can do like I do, and you can go on to the YouTube or, your favorite DVD. And I've been into Portland Wrestling 1980 recently, and it has been, and speaking of which, one of the stars of that era, Butch Miller, just passed away at 78. Tremendous career, over 50 years in wrestling. And, but him, Luke Williams, obviously, and Buddy Rose of the Army in 1980 Portland, and they're tremendous.
Have you ever seen a switch on a dime in your life, like the Sheep Herders into the Bushwhackers, the formerly bloodthirsty, maniacal, savage tag team into the Children's Act? I mean, have you ever seen anything quite like that? I mean, I'm not putting them down either way. I'm just saying that's exactly what happened,
And they were great. They were great. They were so popular. I was a kid at the time.
Right.
I loved Luke and Butch. And then as I got a little bit older, and the magazines, right? And, you'd see them all bloody and all this stuff, and then starting to watch their matches with the Fantastics. A few years back, I started watching, there was a point where they were the top act in Southwest Championship Wrestling. They were the top heels, them with Lord Jonathan Boyd. And just tremendous. I mean, they were an unbeatable team in that run. And you believed every minute of it because they were believable, but they just tremendous. They can adapt to anything.
I'll tell you a funny wrestling magazine related story about the Sheep Herders, right? I forget where I am. It's, my mind is a little fuzzy, but I remember this distinctly. They're in a match, and our friend Bill Apter is shooting at ringside, and he had just been in the back singing Anthony Newley songs with Butch Miller. Right? I've got a lovely bunch of gold. So I'm sitting not far from the ring, but I can hear Apter, and he's going, I've got the thing. And you see Butch bend down and go, I'm going to. He's singing along with him in the ring. But they think only that, nobody can hear them, but they continue to sing Anthony Newley songs. It's the Sheep Herders singing, I've got a lovely bunch of. Hilarious. You had to be there, I guess. But, that's a fond memory I have of, Bill could find anybody's spot, They were fans of, whatever it was, show tunes or whatever. all in all, just to wrap a bow on our WrestleMania talk, I spent 8 hours of my life watching it, and I just said on Monday, nobody puts on a show like they do. The staging, the lighting, the pacing, the overall look. Now, did you know about the Cinnamon Toast Crunch match, or did you just guess? They actually announced that?
I cannot take credit for that. I was tipped off. But they had never advertised it. So I had heard they're going to do the Cinnamon Toast Crunch match. So I was like, what does that entail? Like, because the Mountain Dew, the pitch black thing, there was all the... So I'm thinking, what are these guys going to have to, wrestle in a bowl of milk?
No, but
I guess they were just the sponsor for the match. But I wish I could take credit for that, but I can't.
It was the father-son, but it was the father-son match, and all of a sudden the whole ring is lit up, and you can see the word Cinnamon Toast Crunch on the ring post. Huh? Who? This bitterness in the ring, and all the, we're talking about the tasty breakfast here with 8 essential minerals. What is going on here? It's just right. I don't know. Yeah, I give up. And there was a lot of product placement on WrestleMania. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, you see a logo in the corner, or somebody mentions something in passing, or there'll be a little 10-second thing here or there. Oh, product placement.
Right. Lord. Well, and I think you'll see more of that with the Endeavor partnership, right? I think you'll see, you'll see more of that now that they're going to be, this bigger, company or whatever they are. But I agree with you, Bob. The pageantry that WWE puts on in a big show is something that nobody else can touch in the world right now.
The whole entertainment world.
AEW made, yeah, nobody. It's the Super Bowl.
Because the WWE, unlike concerts and stuff like that, and to an extent they do, but not like WWE, makes the entire arena part of the staging. And even 100%. More so than I've seen elaborate concert setups. Bands like the Scorpions, you wouldn't believe the multimedia setup they have. But WWE blows them all away. They really do. I mean, between the pyro and everything else, it's just. Now, I come from the era where it was two guys walking into the ring and, one cleat light over the ring, But I can't argue with success. That's just the way things are now. That doesn't bother me as much as other things. The basic content bothers me more than the rapper,
I get that. Yeah. I think the rapping is fantastic. But I do miss the character of the old arenas. You know what I mean?
Oh,
now they all look the same on a Monday night and a Friday night, but back in the day, you could tell an arena by the way it was lit. You could tell, you know what I mean? They had certain characteristics to me that I miss. They all looked kind of different. It was cool.
You know what I wish they would do? WWE, just one night, one Monday Night Raw. Call it, Back to the Future night and go back to Allentown. Or go back to, you know what I mean? And do a show in the same ring, in the same place where they did it 50 years ago.
Oh, be fantastic.
And I would flip, But one of my proudest moments was doing IWCCW interviews in the same spot where Vince McMahon stood. Because after McMahon decided they were too big for those arenas, Mario Savoldi's bunch moved in there. And they were great people, by the way. I'm always indebted to them. And they let me do color commentary in a lot of interviews. I interviewed Joe McHugh on television.
That's awesome.
Which I still consider one of my hot moments. That was great. Get to meet Joe McHugh, So I guess my point is I wish they'd do a little more nostalgia. That's all I'm saying, I guess. I mean, the real older nostalgia. Because we're still out there. We're still here, Vince. Hi. You're older than I am, Vince. You were there. So that's my 2 cents. I wish they would do a little more nostalgia. Now, speaking of nostalgia, our semi-theme for this show, this podcast tonight, is outrageous things you have seen with your mouth agape, basically. Incredible moments both on television and in arenas that you've watched something and not believed your eyes. Like the suspension of disbelief entirely takes over and your eyes are bugging out, like Cheech and Chong would say, like Volkswagens. And you're like, holy smokes, what am I looking at? These are the moments I want to recant with you. Do you want to start? Or do you want me to start one and then we'll trade them back?
Your show. So
my show? Oh, I forgot that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually took notes because there's a few things I wanted. Well, the number one thing that affected me, I think, more than any other moment as a wrestling fan was, I believe it was very early 73 or very late 72. After about a 8-month hiatus from there, Fred Blassie returns to the WWF. You spell class Blassie, McMahon, and with his fictitious Pacific Coast Heavyweight Championship around his waist. And he proceeds to go in the ring and chew the face of Big Jim Lancaster. And I was like shocked. I had never seen his vampire shtick. And there was blood all over the place, literally running down his face. The second week when he did it, they put a big X over the screen to censor it. But the first time he did it, it was lurid. And I'm like, I remember telling on John Rizzi's podcast, I'm outside after the match, dribbling a basketball. I'm going, what did I just see? Oh, that was horrible. I can't wait till next week. What was it about? You're like disturbed by it, but by the same token, it's like, where are they going with this? What's he going to do next? Mm-hmm. What's Blassie going to do? And he did a promo a couple of weeks later for, I'm from upstate New York, and it was for the Washington Avenue Armory. They were having a 6-man tag team match. And I swear this is true. I never saw anything like this before since. He picks up a wooden chair, starts growling, and breaks the wooden chair over his head for a local promo. He's pounding it over his head, bouncing it off his head until it breaks in about 5 pieces and screaming at the top of his lungs. And I'm thinking, boy, he really hates Strongbow.
Yeah.
It was Fred Blassie scared the bejesus out of me when I was about 11, 12 years old. And that stuck with me, man. I'm telling you, I got every nuance of that right all these years later, because when you see something that jars you like that, it sticks with you.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So just like with John Arizzi, my fascination with Fred Blassie continues to this day, because nobody could ever do that bit again. He was the first and last to be that orally fixated in a wrestling match, shall we speak. It's too dangerous. So how about you? You got another thing that scared you or made you a little bit cringy? Or
Oh, yeah. So, and you brought up something that's so real, right? Nobody else could do it, right? Johnny Valentine used to say, "You might not believe wrestling is real, but you'll believe I'm real." And real to me, there was nobody more real than the Road Warriors to me.
Okay, all right.
Now, my fandom in the 80s, so I'm born in 1984. But my fascination with the history of wrestling began at a very, very young age. So we're going early 90s here. So my earliest memory of the Road Warriors were them as baby faces in the NWA and Jim Crockett. So we're talking 87, 88, And so I had bought a couple of tapes, and there was a AWA tape. It was like the best of the Road Warriors. Oh, I've never seen the Road Warriors in the AWA. I'd heard they were the AWA champions, but I'd never seen it. So the first match on the tape is it's from Hammond, Indiana. It's sometime, I think, in either late 84 or early 85. And mind you, again, I'm like 6, 7 years old. This is all still very real to me. And the Road Warriors are bad guys. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So they're wrestling Kurt Hennig and Baron von Raschke in an AWA match in Hammond, Indiana. And Larry the Axe Hennig is on commentary. So the match starts to break down. Hennig has Animal in the Claw. Everybody's going crazy. Kurt Hennig comes in here and gets his head stuck in the ropes in what would become the Mick Foley spot, the twisted ropes, and his head's in there. And Hawk and Animal just unload on him, and he is bleeding everywhere.
No, I recall this match. Yes.
Purple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I recall that match.
And the blood's going down, and Larry Hennig's trying to get in a ring. And he goes, somebody get a doctor.
It was one of those moments that would have been on a wrestling magazine cover in 1972, because he was bleeding from his head down to below his trunks onto his legs. That's how hard he was bleeding. It was all over the place. It was really one of the more lurid TV moments.
Scared the living crap out of me.
Sure, I understand. I remember that match vividly. Yeah,
but
pretty rough stuff for the AWA.
Oh yeah, and I said, I need me some more of this. And then the promo afterwards, right? Hawk is going, in only the way Hawk could. He's going, "What's Larry Hennig so hot about? That we beat the living hell out of his son." And oh man, I wanted to see them. Oh man, the Axe is going to come out of retirement, to fight, and it led to a match later on the tape between Kurt and Larry the Axe against the Road Warriors, and it was fantastic. Scared the bejesus out of me.
I had videotaped that match, and I still own it. It's still somewhere in a closet.
That's awesome.
I have the original unexpurgated version of that match. And Kurt does one of the most extreme blade jobs I've seen. I mean, he took his
face was very purple.
Yeah, but he took he went like this. He went across the entire crown of his forehead. Right from if you were wearing a hat, take it from the bill of the hat to the other side of the bill of the hat. Like, I'm wearing a hat now, folks. So it's like I'm wearing a baseball. It's a Met hat. Shut up. So anyway, so I'm going all the way across like this, and that's what he did. And it was, and I saw replays of that match, and they cut that part out because it was a pretty obvious play job. But he really gigged himself. I mean, it was wow. I mean, and you remember the reaction to the fans. Remember the reaction of the fans after? It looked like there was going to be a fight.
They're fighting on the way back.
That's right. That's right. There was some guy was
They're
really on the
fighting
verge of getting
fans,
arrested. Yeah.
cares.
Yeah. They showed it all. Right. Wow. That's a great one to bring
Yeah.
up. That's an excellent one. I'll take it in 1988.
All right.
Continental, the Continental Federation of all things.
Yes.
And it's the television the show, their promo show, and it was hosted by Charlie Plath and Gordon Solie at that point.
Yeah.
And there was a feud going on between Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony and Kimberly, who at that point was known as Lady Mystic for some reason.
Yeah.
And Tom was a face at that point, if you can believe it. I liked him better as a heel, but he was a face.
Yeah.
So she comes out, and she appears to be crying. She has big sunglasses on. She's interrupting Gordon Solie as he's doing, some announcements. And you go, "What can I do for you?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm in a bad way." And she takes the sunglasses off, and it looks like her left eye has been completely blackened.
Oh my God.
And she infers that her hot-headed boyfriend, Tony Anthony, belted her because of what happened at the previous match with Pritchard. And she's going, "Can I please talk? Can I please talk to Dr. Tom? Can I please get Tom Maher? I just want to explain what's going on." And Solie's going, "Oh, I got a TV show to run. I can't, I can't right now, but I'll see what I can do later." So she leaves. They show a match, and then she comes back, and she's begging him to get Tom Pritchard out there. So you see Solie take out off his mic, call Charlie Plath over to take over. He goes in the back to go get Pritchard. Pritchard reluctantly comes out and goes, "You shouldn't have trusted that guy. Tom Pritchard, he's a hothead, blah, blah, blah." Or, excuse me, Tony Anthony's a hothead, la-di-da-di-da. And she's going, "Oh, please help me," or something like that. And she maneuvers him around. Naturally, here comes Tony Anthony with the chair. Bang! Bashes Pritchard with it, right? We're just getting started. She's wiping the black off her eye, laughing and pointing at Pritchard, who's on the ground in a heap. They drag him over to the ring. They stick a rope around his neck and they hang him from the ring.
Oh my!
For a long time. I mean, he's like spitting up. It looks like he may be spitting up blood. He's turning colors. It's a traditional pro wrestling hanging, if you've ever seen a few of those.
Yeah.
This was such an extreme angle that they almost got thrown off their local TV, according to what I just read.
Oh my word!
Yeah, and it was effective. A lot of heat in the arena. You could hear the audience screaming. I mean, this one was way for five different reasons. Female beating and stuff like that. I mean, come on now, and it was really, really effective. But as we'll talk about later, Continental had a lot of stuff at this point because their talent roster was shrinking. Everybody had, so you had to make the most of what you had, and they had a few angles that were like, holy smokes. So if you ever get a chance, all these, that's on YouTube, fans, if you want to seek that out, because it's out there, man. This one was just, I'm working at PWI at this time, going, what am I looking at? Right? This was my first year with PWI. I'm going, what are they doing here? I mean, it was so extreme on all those different levels. I rest my case.
Yeah. Well, and it's so funny because I had heard of the angle, but I'd never heard of the hanging part. I never realized that was part of the angle.
Oh,
I had known about the faking the domestic violence piece. So now I have to, boom, that's in the category to watch. So that's going in the hopper.
Easy to find.
And it makes you sit there and wonder, like, holy crap. Like, what I mean?
But this was brought up at the time too. I remember reading the Observer and people writing letters about this thing. I don't know if it was in the Observer or not, but somebody wrote, how is it that they pulled this ridiculously violent angle, and yet you see the area security cops looking in the direction of the crowd? You see police, or the security that are looking at the crowd while somebody's being hung right behind them. It just didn't work very well in that regard. But you know what? Tom Pritchard was a great wrestler, and so was Tony Anthony. I thought they were both completely underrated.
Oh, 100%.
Both accomplished a lot in the territories that they worked for, and they worked for 20 years apiece. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I met Tom Pritchard 2.5 years ago, and worked a couple of shows as a liaison with him. Tremendous human being. Really nice guy. And I remember I was kind of, my role was to kind of help the wrestlers and the guys with whatever they needed throughout the weekend and things. And just one of my favorite quotes of all time, I went up to Dr. Tom, I'm Mike. I said, whatever I can do to make your life easier this weekend, that's my goal. Just here to help you. Just let me know. Here's my number, blah, 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 blah. Just straight face, deadpan, looks at me, goes, that's a nice thing to attain to. You will not achieve it. He goes, that's a really nice thing to attain to. I said, fair enough.
he has a good sense of humor. He
was great. And he was just knowledgeable, and it was funny seeing him, teach people the old flying toe hold,
Okay, Mike, your turn. What do you got for me now?
All right. So we're going Christmas 1987. We are going the Reunion Arena in Dallas. Kerry Von Erich, just back from his motorcycle injury, against Al Perez in a steel cage for the World Class Heavyweight Championship. And I have to say this because anytime his name is brought up, I have to say it, my favorite manager of all time is Gary Hart. Gary Hart is involved in this match. Fritz Von Erich is now going to be involved in this match to subdue Gary Hart from getting involved. Well, Terry Gordy comes out and cuts a promo. And the new Freebirds, which anytime you put new in front of something, it just doesn't work, right? Which is Gordy, Roberts, the Angel of Death, and Iceman King Parsons. So actually, I love Iceman King Parsons, but
me too.
But it just it was world class on its last legs. And Terry Gordy, and again, this part of it in later years meant more to me because of the fact of, he cuts a line, you can't even ride a motorcycle, let alone get a title shot, And then they proceed to beat the crap out of Fritz Von Erich, which, Fritz is in his 60s at this point, right? 50s, 60s. Mm-hmm. And so the beatdown happens, and then Fritz, they get him out of the cage. Here comes Kevin and Kerry taking him out, and standing ovation. And all of a sudden, Fritz collapses, and he's on the ground, and he's apparently suffered some kind of medical emergency. This was shocking to me. And I didn't even know about a whole lot of the tragedies at that point yet. And really at that point it was David and Mike, mm-hmm. Which was, don't get me wrong, that's more tragedy than any family should ever have to bear. But it was just oh my, what is going on? And so it's this infamous now, what became known as the heart attack. But I'm thinking, oh my God, Fritz Von Erich die right here on television? What is going on here? And of course, like I said, knowing what we know, and I think it was just a very bad attempt to get some sympathy for a family that had just, and again, all the Von Erich's my favorite of all time, but this was just a bad call. And I think it played on trying to get some goodwill that it just wasn't needed, And I know it's been denied later. Oh, he wasn't having a heart attack, but that's what they were going for.
Well, yeah,
100%.
I think they did it without mentioning that word. I think, the word heart attack enough to get mentioned, so they skirted it. I will say that the wrestling media at that time universally panned the whole thing. It was the same when in Florida, I think. I can't remember if Kevin Sullivan stabbed, I think it was Blackjack Mulligan in the heart with a spike. Yeah. In the heart area. And I think that's just as bad. Come on, guys. You're going too far. I remember the people writing Meltzer and saying this stuff is terrible. They shouldn't be doing this. I agreed. I'm not against, believe me, I'm not against violence in wrestling. Don't go over that. Don't do life and death.
Well, yeah, and yeah, it just to me it's too far. It's just what was it? Was it Onita who did the Puerto Rican angle with? Was it Jose Gonzalez who where they did the Brody angle where he stabbed Onita? They did
recreate the bullet. I remember reading about that. Yeah, I didn't see it.
Terribly poor taste.
I mean, I never watched WWC again after that. It's enough, guys.
Yeah,
I never watched it again. I left that whole Brody era left such a horrible taste in my mouth. I was watching them up to that point and never turned them on again. I never did to this day. I don't even want to see the old tapes now. It was too much. The whole story from back then, I don't want to get into it because, everybody knows about it, but God, it soured me to the whole organization. How can you like them after that?
To me, it just brought too much of real life into the ring, and even, and I remember even younger, it just didn't feel right to me. Like that was the kind of shock that it left with me. Like this doesn't feel like it fits. You know what I mean? Like it just felt wrong. It felt scary to me. You know what I mean? And I didn't like it making its way into something that I found kind of as like a safe haven. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm going to go down the rest of my list real quick because I did a lot of them. But these are all a bunch of moments that left my mouth agape and my eyes bugging out. Okay. Continental in '88 again, where at that point, Pez Whatley, Pistol Pez Whatley, was known as Willie B. Hurt. I don't know why they changed his name. Okay. But here comes Eddie Gilbert with his manager, Paul Heyman, or Paulie Dinkus.
Oh, yeah.
And at ringside is a teenager, young African-American teenager who they start berating. And it turns out it's Pez Whatley's real life son. And they beat him up. He was only 14 or 16 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And they attacked, Eddie attacked him and left him laying. And Pez comes running out. My son. No, it really worked. It worked. But I'm thinking, again, what am I looking at here?
Yeah.
You could beat anybody up in Continental, apparently. That's all I know.
It's all
also
game.
From 1980. As I read this list, I'm finding out 1988 was one heck of a year for violent wrestling.
Yeah.
You know why? They were fighting the McMahon monster. That's why.
Yeah.
Manny Fernandez versus Invader 3, who was Johnny Rivera. Do you remember the blood burning up into the air?
Yeah.
After 3 knee drops to the sternum? Holy smokes.
Yeah, but that was a work, but they claim that was real. It was revenge for Brody,
Geez, I know how they did it, and I'm not going to say. I think it's more fun if you listeners haven't seen it. Find out for yourselves, and you'll laugh.
Yeah,
when you find out how they did that, you'll
fantastic looking. Yeah.
Also, I was a full-grown adult. This was before I worked for PWI. 86, 87, the NWF here in the East Coast with 19-year-old Paul Heyman as the TV announcer. I thought DC Drake was one scary guy.
I love DC Drake.
And he used to come out. He used to come out with his manager Damian Kane, dragging him by a chain.
Alka-Seltzer.
And he would eat raw meat and foam at the mouth. Yes, I thought I never saw somebody foam at the mouth. I said, "What is going on here?"
Wrestling, I used to cover them big time. If you remember,
yes, yeah.
Who was that? Carmen DeSpirito, right?
Yes,
and I live in Toms River, New Jersey. 15 minutes up the road from me is Brick, New Jersey, where they used to tape NWF wrestling at the Brick Ice Palace. It's no longer the skating rink. It closed a couple of years ago, but that's where they used to tape NWF wrestling in Brick, New Jersey. That's where the first women's steel cage match took place between Wendy Richter and I forget who the other girl might have been. Heidi Lee Morgan.
I was thinking Heidi Lee Morgan. Yeah, before you said it.
I think it's Heidi Lee Morgan, but that's where that happened. So if you ever see Rob Rasmussen, I think, but God rest his soul, had a YouTube page, but you'll see if you ever see Brick, New Jersey, it was at the old Ice Palace here.
There you go. Okay. All right, here's one I attended, 1989. I was with PWI. Sunny Beach and Cactus Jack are fighting on. They go brawling into the bleachers and go to the top of the bleachers. This is at a high school in Long Island. I'm thinking it's Lynbrook. I don't want to say the wrong town, but it was in Long Island. Sonny goes over to Hall's Cactus, who rolls down the entire length of the bleachers. Ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum. You know how big he is. People are scattering. People are running with their babies in their arms. I mean, it was genuinely frightening.
Yeah.
Genuinely frightening. I mean, it was one of the biggest spots I ever saw Cactus do, including the steel cage and all the other more famous things. But he went rolling akimbo, legs and arms flailing down the entire length. I think maybe, somebody I knew in wrestling was there along with me, but I'm like, holy smokes, is there anything this guy won't do? And this was long before the big stuff,
Yeah.
This was in front of 800 people in a high school gym. I'm like, can you imagine?
Yep.
Also, 95. I didn't see this one until recently. I never saw this match, the All Japan match between All Japan or in Japan. Terry Funk, Cactus Jack, barbed wire match. Good gosh.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah. Right? Didn't you watch it and really find some of it hard to look at? I mean, it was
very difficult to watch. Yeah,
yeah,
barbed wire.
And
God
who was
bless
better
them.
portraying pain than Terry Funk? My God.
Oh, yeah.
But the most recent one on my list is from 2003 on SmackDown. Brock Lesnar beating the holy hell out of 150-pound, one-legged Zach Gowen. Holy smokes, is that hard to look at?
Yeah.
Right? Have you ever seen it?
I
ever
have.
seen an uncensored version of that? And the following week, he threw him in his wheelchair down a flight of stairs to put cherry on the sundae. But that beatdown, I mean,
know,
it was
man.
a massive blood.
I tell you, there are
giant,
moments.
almost 400-pound guy beating the crap out of a 150-pound one-legged man. It just looked ill, man. Sickness.
That's a good list. That's a really good list.
I was in the business. I was in the business, and wrestling still manages to do things that make you go, "What I just see." What? And that's why I love it. It's like,
oh yeah,
you can look back on it and go, okay, I realize this and that, and but the fact that creativity comes in different ways.
Yeah,
it can come in the psychology of a match. It can come in developing a star. It can come in outfits. You can get over in a whole mess of different ways.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you can do it through the sheer daring do of the participants, and a lot of these are just that. These people really wanted it to get over, and they did.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there was ways to do it. Like I remember, we talked about the Road Warriors earlier. 1988, they turn on Dusty and Sting, and they get Dusty in the eye with the spike.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I almost put that on the list.
Dusty and then you hear just my eye. You're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That
was the 605 show, right? That was the
605. 605.
Didn't he get fired? Yes. Okay. There you go.
He got fired. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He got fired. Yeah. So that was the end of Dusty, and that's what led to him going to the WWE or but I was like, oh my God, like what a level of brutality that had to be. And even with that, and this shows the power of the Road Warriors, people didn't want to boo the Road Warriors. You know what I mean?
No, that didn't make anybody boo the Road Warriors. No, they didn't get booed.
No,
but I will say this:
there's
that was wow. I mean, that really was lurid. And I noticed on all replays, they kind of digitized the screen so you couldn't see the spike in the eye. But I saw the original live. Holy smokes!
Oh yeah,
that was pretty extreme.
There was another incident with the Road Warriors earlier in '88 where they did the bench press challenge with the Powers of Pain, and the Powers of Pain and Ivan Koloff attacked them with the heavy weights and the chalk thing. And oh man, that was devastating to me too. I mean, I really thought they were going to crush Animal's face. That was a pretty devastating one. A lot of my early on moments were the Road Warriors. But I'm going to go a little bit into the 90s. I remember seeing this was FMW, the fire match with the Sheik and Sabu against Onita, and I forget who the other gentleman was, but I mean that was a sight like you've never seen before. Was the Sheik in that match?
Was the Sheik in that match? I know he was.
Sheik was in that match. He suffered third-degree burns in that match. Yeah,
I just read about the book. Yeah.
Match lasted like 2 minutes.
It had to because they were going to get killed, all of them. I mean, that was really a dangerous situation. That was terrible.
Yeah, it was. And I remember it was PWI. I saw the pictures. I don't know if it was like the 92 year in review. And then I ended up seeing the tape. And then I was like, oh my God, but they were throwing water and Sheik's still in gimmick.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But that shocked me.
Almost. Remember the Oneida versus Funk exploding ring match?
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Craig Peters said it a few weeks ago. Craig Peters said it a few weeks ago on the show too. We had Craig Peters on. He said you keep going higher and higher and higher, higher. You can only go so high before something bad.
You can only go
happens.
so high.
Yeah, I'm hoping they never
Yeah.
do those matches again. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy.
I hope not. Oh yeah. It is. It's insane. 1993.
And that's why I
think
love guys like Gunther, who is entirely different. Gunther just
Oh,
wrestles.
Gunther.
I like this.
Oh man, that match at WrestleMania was just it was wonderful. Wonderful.
Yes, it was.
It was my favorite match of the weekend.
I have a tie with that. And Charlotte and Rhea is a tie with me. Both of those matches.
Oh yeah, 100%. That was those were the, and I thought the main event was a great wrestling match until the end.
Until the end. Right here. How many times have we said that? Until the end, yeah. Mr. Wrestler Weekly, my friend. You got some big stuff coming up, I understand. Tell me what's going on and what's about.
Yeah, we have a new book coming out. Scotty is working hard. Belt versus Belt. The most historic match of our time, Superstar Graham and Harley Race. It takes an in-depth look at the build to the Super Bowl of wrestling and specifically champion versus champion matches. Really cool, fun perspective. And from the perspective of a fan looking at this through the eyes of the magazines.
Mm-hmm.
How it was to, this was really the Super Bowl, champion versus champion. So Scotty's at work at hard, looking for a summer release. I'm honored to be writing the preface for the book.
Nice.
So we're working on some things, and so it's going to be really, really cool. This has been something on Scotty's radar for a while. This will be a nice follow-up to Family Bacon Wrestling. It's our big project going forth, but he is working away. He's actually taken a little 4-day vacation at the beach as we speak to give himself a little freshness going into another writing session. But that's our big project coming up.
I'll have the listeners know I've seen some early galleys, and it's going to be something good. This is going to be really good. I mean, particularly if you're an outdated guy like me, I think you're going to enjoy the flavor of this book, too, to be honest with you, because I love the other book. I even bought my T-shirt and it says that on it. I bought the T-shirt, don't you? So, yeah. Yeah, I got my Family Bacon Wrestling T-shirt. I couldn't be happier with it, too. You know why? People stop me and go, what the heck does that mean? I go, I don't know. Huh? No, I tell them it's a book. But so that's cool.
So
and what about the Wrestler Weekly front? What's happening with the various websites? And tell everybody where you are and how they can see you guys.
Sure. So you can catch us at Wrestler Weekly, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And then you could also catch us on YouTube at Wrestler Weekly. We have interviews up with various wrestlers and wrestling personalities. We have review shows that we've done where we look at different memorabilia. We collect wrestling memorabilia, specifically magazines, championship belts, programs, items from we have a seat from the Orange Bowl, where the Super Bowl of wrestling was held. That's one of Scotty's holy grail items that you'll likely see in the book. And it's just a whole lot of fun. So we'd love to share those things. But please connect with us. We love to see what you have in your collection, what your favorite wrestling moments and memories were. So it's really all about the wrestling that made us feel something, the wrestling that we still want to stay alive. And we're fans of the current product. We're not a anti-current product thing, but we just love the history of wrestling so much. We want to keep it alive for many, many years to come. And so we try to really be that history channel of pro wrestling.
I know how you guys feel.
Connect with us.
I know how you guys feel. It's the same reason I started this show. I mean, the last podcast I was on was also a nostalgia show in a way, but with me, I go back even farther. I mean, I'm an old fart. So it's like, I do have a very vivid memory of 70s wrestling, particularly, and the magazines from back then, the Bloody Cover era, the Apartment Wrestling era, the advent of other publishers coming into the scene, and you had Wrestling World and the Politano books. I loved the magazines just like you guys did. And I just, that whole flavor is unlike anything that's around today. I'm trying to impart that on people. I don't know if it's working, but, and again, I don't want to be ageist or oh, it's no good. I don't want to be that much of a curmudgeon, but by the same token, I see things now that offend me that would never have been done then. But then again, like we just described, there were things done then you can never do now.
I think it goes to the fact that I don't expect today to be what I remember it, and I just watch it for what it is, and I enjoy what I like out of it, and then I put on those old tapes, and I like to see what that was, and it's the best of both worlds for me. I very much respect the men and women that wrestle today and what they do, and what's not my flavor I don't watch, and what is my flavor I do. And it's the same thing like the old days. I find what works for me and I stick to it.
Right. I mean, it's apples and oranges sometimes. You look at a guy like Billy Robinson from the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah.
Pure mat wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
But then you look at Charlotte Flair or Rhea Ripley or Seth Rollins, who can all jump. They can all take to the skies, or they can get down on the mat and do holds and maneuvers and finishers that are essentially submission holds. That's wrestling too. It's all wrestling. So here's the thing. There's a lot of things I could gripe about. I want this to be more of an upbeat show than that. You know how I voice my opinion on stuff I really hate?
Oh yeah.
I don't watch.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and bash AEW for 3 hours every show. I'm not going to do that. Jim Cornette does a good enough job doing it. You don't need me to join in on that. But I think that there's 1,000 things I could pick at them for. But you know what? I've seen some good stuff there too. I have. Wow, however, with David McLean, you can just put that in the dumpster. Come on. God, that's awful.
Yeah, I generally stay away from anything David McLean does. So.
Yes, David McLean has soured everything he ever touched. Going back, did you know he was he replaced Sam Menaker? And I didn't even know this until. And thank you, Nostalgic Dave Dynasty, and your great YouTube channel, man. You are the best.
Yeah,
I have been binging like you have on Bruiser Bedlam. I am the biggest mark for Bruiser Bedlam right now. And we had Terry Sullivan, the announcer, on the show. I'm in love, man, because I missed it all. I never saw it before, ever.
Isn't it great? That's
not bad.
The one beautiful thing about today's technology, is we have all this digital media. It's preserved these films, these tapes.
Yeah, press of a button, you got it.
See it all now.
I always do have a wonderful time with Mike Leotis. I'm very excited about Scotty Richardson's new book. Like I said, I've kind of previewed it, and I'm kind of floored by it. It really captures the flavor of the era that they're writing about. And I think this one is going to be a really big deal once it comes out. So I'm really looking forward to that. And speaking of things to look forward to, we have tons of guests coming on the show. New ones, old ones. As you know, I'm going to be appearing on Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian R. Solomon. Check your local listings for that one. I don't have a specific date right now, but it's coming very soon. I'm also going to be on the PWZ podcast, which I'm really excited about. Just two wonderful wrestling podcasts. Listen to both of them. Listen to all the wrestling podcasts, particularly the ones that will focus on traditional, old school professional wrestling. They're still out there. And there's nothing better than Jim Cornette's two shows with the great Brian Last. Those are tremendous. Wrestling podcasts are actually way better than a lot of wrestling is these days, but that's just my 2 cents. So I'm going to sign off for now. We'll be back next Friday again. I want to thank everybody for the great reaction we got to the WrestleMania review show. Got a lot more listeners than we thought because we kind of sprung that on people, and it worked. I'm really happy. So here's our contacts once again. Facebook, I'm Robert Smith. Our website is outdatedwrestlinghour.buzzsprout.com. Our email is outdatedwrestling@gmail.com. Twitter, I'm Bob Smith NYC. Cool. We have a new theme song, as you may have noticed. I'm going to play the entire theme song on our fade out because I'm crazy about this one. It's called Hold On a Sec by a guy named Brian Teo. Thank you, Brian. And I'm really looking forward to having our listeners hear that really grooving tune. Kind of reminds me of the theme of a former cop comedy show, if you know what I mean. See if you're as old as I am, if you can put two and two together and figure out what I'm talking about here. So we have a lot more fun coming up for you guys, I hope, in the future episodes. And we're going to keep going and going with this thing. It has been an absolute thrill, exciting time for me these last 2-3 months putting this thing together. And I'm reacquainting with a lot of old friends. Like I said, Craig Peters and I hadn't talked in a long, long time before he was on the show, and he's coming back again, thanks to public demand by all of you. So thanks again. This is the Outdated Wrestling Hour. So once again, we'll leave you with the words of a very famous person, this time in deference to our staff announcer, the great Dominic DeNucci, who once exclaimed, Lou Albano, I'm going to do something very, very bad to you. I'm going to butter your nose and everything else.